Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, mate, before we begin, is I'm just going to say a big thank you to you, first of all, for making the time to do this. Really appreciate it because I know that you've had a loss in the family, and I know that we were talking about this last year, and I was moving, and it fell through. So to finally be here today is a good feeling. So first thing I want to do is thank you for
You're very
joining.
well. You're very
Yeah.
well.
And I'm also going to say a few words for our audience before we begin as well, just so they know what's going on, because I want to give a big welcome to this wonderful guest today, guys. Really inspirational individual, really inspirational fighter, Andy Connor, the Immortal. Obviously, very well known and well respected as a fighter, particularly in MMA. He's been a very, very busy man in that discipline, but also a person who has survived some incredible things. There's a very brutal experience that we will touch on respectfully and with purpose later on about how Andy survived a near fatal stabbing and also how he passes on his knowledge as well to the next generation. I believe we'll find out a little bit more about that. But just an amazing story today, guys, and we're going to be getting behind the scenes. As always, I like to touch on the mindset that it takes to reach a high level and compete in, one of the toughest sports in the world. So we're going to be finding out a lot of things. I'm also going to say, please subscribe to the channel, guys. Simply Inspired, presenting champions. A lot of great content like this. This is episode 479. So it sounds crazy to say that, but it is true. And also, guys, by the time you've heard this story, you're probably going to want to connect with Andy as well. So have a listen up because we'll give him a mention of where you can follow him and where you can connect with his journey very shortly. But like I say, mate, thank you so much once again.
You're very
Awesome
well.
to be here. Awesome to be here. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to touch on something just to kick things off with a little bit of a bang and just to get things warmed up a little bit. You've had a lot of fights, and a lot of people I don't think will know like quite how many. I was having a look at some of the records and things earlier, but I mean, do you know how many you've had all in all?
There was 180 altogether.
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
It
180.
was it was it was through it wasn't through just MMA. It was
Oh,
so I did boxing, I did K1,
yeah.
I done bare knuckle, and then
Yeah.
MMA. So I've had quite a
Yeah.
few.
Yeah, you've had a lot. I've seen some videos. Like I say, I've seen some of the bare knuckle ones. I've seen K1. I've heard of boxing. I don't know if I've seen many of those. I've seen a lot of MMA. So I mean, yeah, absolutely multidiscipline. Now, just want to touch on like where you started with all of that, mate. Where you first started out with martial arts, combat sports, however you define it, and what your first inspiration was to get in the gym and sort of give that a go, basically.
So it it wasn't. I didn't really follow fighting as a before I got into it. I found it. So I grew up in children's homes. Um, from a very young age, due to a lot of past, a lot of trauma in my past as a child. Um, so I became bullied quite a lot. I was bullied like to a point where I would I would I would literally piss myself. Like there was lads out there who would, as soon as they were around groups and stuff like that, and if I was wanting to hang around with them because I just wanted to fit in. So then what they do is they bully me that much, kick the shit out of us, and then it's piss your pants now. If you don't want, we're going to do this. So it came to a point where like I just had to do it because I was so scared, and then it then became a point wherever I met young people when I was young, I just done it automatically because I was so scared because I thought that's what was going to happen. So um, and then I became a father at a young age. Became a father at 15, and what triggered me to fight was the first time I held my daughter Alicia. Um, we I held her in the hospital, and I looked at my daughter and I just said to myself, how on earth am I meant to protect you if I cannot protect myself? And that was a trigger for me. So I triggered it. But then what happened? I became a bully. I became the bully. So, and I didn't like the person who I was becoming. I was attacking people for no reason, and I was, looking for trouble, as to say. And I just I became a bully, and I didn't want to become that person. So I had to try and balance it out. And I remember the first ever fight I had, it was just right. This is where I need to be, because it was a place of peace for me as well. Not only I balanced out where I didn't want to become a bully, but it helped me as trauma wise. It helped me. It was my place of peace. So that's how I found fighting.
Absolutely. Well, you know something, mate. I respect the vulnerability to share that very much, because it takes courage to do that as well. It takes courage to be on here, speak about your life, and, share quite personal things. And as I've said before, the purpose I do this is to help people. That's the reason why. So anything we share today, I'm always thinking about, okay, how's this going to help someone? How's this going to help someone?
I
Um,
always, I always think it doesn't matter. I always think to become a fighter, you
yeah,
find a lot of the time, like 99.9% of the time, that this person has got some kind of trauma or some kind of reason. You don't wake up one day and go, right, I want to be punched in the face. There has to be a story behind it. And I find that there is that a lot of time. So what I always say, my motto is, every fighter has an untold story. But mine, because I'm done, I'm retired, that's it. Why not let that untold story be told?
yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 110%, mate. 110%. I wanted to get your advice as well for people who are being bullied or, feeling afraid in that way, because there's a lot of people out there now going through what you went through before, and you're in a great position to give advice for them of, how they can learn to protect themselves and what they need to do to like take their power back, basically. Not to become bullies, but just to get it on an equal level where they're not afraid anymore. What would you say to those people?
My advice would be to talk first. It's always good to talk, to share, you know, get advice from, seek advice, talk to people. And even if, you know, bullies are never going to go away. We live in the world this day and age where bullies are just going to be, they're there. They're there and they're never going to go away. But we can defend ourselves. I'm not saying go and learn a discipline or learn how to fight and then put it on them. I'm not saying that. However, some of them deserve it. But you become them. So what you need to do is find a discipline that is, that's very respected. And once you get the bug of that, then you learn to, to one, defend yourself, and two, to, you know, stop people from. It's better for the mental health as well. A lot. It's great for your mind. It's great for it. It releases so much for me. Even when now I'm retired, I watch people train, and I just feel so. I feel like it's a release from my demons, as to say.
Absolutely, 100% with you on that one. Okay, now the other side of the coin, or the other thing here, is obviously when you were doing a bit of bullying yourself, and I mean this respectfully. So believe me, it's also a life lesson. That's the only reason I'm asking.
Yeah,
Is when you look back on it now, and when you kind of switch the roles, and like you say, you were attacking people and all this. How do you feel about it? Because I'm not interested in any judgment of like me judging you, but I am
yeah.
interested in when you look at yourself in the mirror and you reflect on that aspect of your life, how you feel about it these days, basically.
It it didn't end. So it didn't end when I became a fighter. It it crept back every time. So if I wasn't fighting or training in the gym, I'd feel my body going back to the person who I used to, especially with the death of my brother. So when my brother died, I changed back to that bully, and I've hurt a lot of people. You know, there's a lot of reason behind it for different reasons, but I bullied. I wouldn't say bullied. I'm going to use the word. I hurt a lot. I've hurt a lot of people in my life, and to anyone who watches this, if it's any one of them people, I will apologize. I apologize sincerely. It's not. I didn't. I didn't want to become that person. So I stand and I'll stand corrected and apologize to anyone who I have bullied. But and I'll not justify why I done it, or because I can't answer them questions. However, Would I change my life at any point? I don't think I would. And I mean that with all due respect to everyone who I have heard, because I've had to learn the hard way myself, you know, and and I don't want to sound so disrespectful when I say that, but I've had to live the life I've lived to get to where I am today. I am sorry for what I've done, but I can't change it. All I can do is, apologize to them people. I didn't, I'm not going to say I didn't, well, I didn't mean to do it now, but then obviously I meant to. So, we all go through that part of life where we make mistakes, but I learned from it. And it's took me a lot of years to actually, say, I'm sorry, basically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, respect on that, mate, because that type of growth inside of you and in your soul and everything like that. I mean, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of honesty with yourself. And all I can say is respect that, because life is a journey of growth. So the same thing as before, people out there who are basically bullies, or they are basically, even if they're not bullies, even if they're like lashing out at people, that sort of stuff, and they're in that sort of very angry mindset, usually because they're hurting inside. I
Yeah.
mean, how it goes, hurt people. It is very true. What would your advice be for them, for people who kind of, they're in that mindset, but maybe they do want to change? Maybe there's a little bit of something inside them that wants to change.
So my advice to a bully is, um, whatever demons you've got, there's a reason behind everything. Every action, there's a reason behind it. So my advice is, I would say to someone, if I see witness somebody, and the first thing I would say, is it their fault for whatever's going on in your life? No, because you always find that a lot of children that are bullied always take it out on someone else. You know, it's not their fault. That's how that's how I did it. I took it out on people who were the closest to us, and it wasn't their fault. All I had to do, all right, was find a different way to let it out. You don't have to pick on people. You don't have to bully people, to feel better about yourself. There is other ways and means out there, for you to one, let it out. Two, you know, it, I just don't understand bullying this day and age. It's getting worse, because now we've got knife crime, now we've got guns, we've got weapons, we've got a lot of stuff going on. So, I mean, I remember years ago, if you had a problem with someone, you ring them up, right? This is blah 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 blah. Get on the field, right? I'll meet you on the field. You have a fight, win, lose or draw. You shake the hand, then you have a pint, or you become closer. You become quite good friends. I mean, I've got a lot of friends who, we've had a fight and they've been best mates afterwards. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, I'm going off a subject, but it's just. So my advice to bullies is, find a different way, because it wasn't their fault.
Absolutely. I love the message. And yeah, and what you're saying there, mate, about, shake their hands afterwards and all that. I mean, it's the way it should be. And
Yeah.
the world needs to go back to that, in my opinion. I agree. And obviously, I mean, this is something we're going to touch on here. And before we get into this, by the way, I respect very, very much so that it might not be the easiest thing in the world to touch on. But when you're saying about knife crime and all of this, and obviously what happened to you, I've read articles and things. I've seen posts and things about it. I'm not exactly sure on the timeline, to be honest, on this, but I have read some things on it. But yeah, you were stabbed multiple times. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we're getting at here. You survived. And not only have you survived, but you've obviously learned from the experience and grown from the experience. And that's why I was saying just now in the beginning, probably not an easy thing to remember. For the relevance of people listening to this, I would like to touch on it, and I would like to touch on particularly your recovery and how you bounce back from it. But starting with what actually happened, do you mind sharing that with us, please,
No,
mate?
so uh, I was a friend. He was a good. We were quite good friends, and it was over. He owed me some money, and I rang him up and I says, "Look, you need to start paying us back." Blah blah blah. Anyway, we had a little argument, and then the words, "Wait, if you think something, come and get it." It was something like that. So I went down. I went to his house. He antagonized us to come to his house, so I went to his house. But I had that mindset, not bothered. I couldn't give a shit who it is. I'll fight anyone, blah, blah. Just a big headed prick, as to say it. So I went to his house and I knocked on the door. So as I knocked on the door, his girlfriend come to the door, and she was arguing with me, and she punched us in the head. And I said, don't hit us. You can scream, just don't hit us." And then, but while she was arguing and hit me outside, the lad had run out the other door and ran round the side and snuck up behind us. And he had, when you get the block of knives, or the smallest one that you peel potatoes with. I remember that. He had one of them. And all I felt was just someone punching my back, punched me in the shoulder, and then punched us in the arm, and punched us in. I turned round, and it was him. And I hit him, and I knocked him out. Still not unknown that I'd been stabbed. And then all of a sudden, I looked down. I had an English. I still got a picture of the T-shirt, to be honest. And I looked down, and there was blood pouring. And then I remember I felt it here, and I just felt blood going like that. And I looked at him when he was knocked out on the floor, and he had a knife in his hand. And I thought, you know what? You also, basically. So then, sorry, my memory, I'm just trying to remember all. So then what happened? My ex-partner, who I was with at the time, her sister lived 2 doors up. So after I'd hit him and realised I'd been stabbed, I walked out the gate, and I was walking up to her house, and I walked into the garden, and I started feeling drowsy. Excuse me. And then I got to the back door, and all I remember is just collapsing. But I collapsed at the door, but my body went into shock apparently, and I ended up in the sitting room. My body was shaking on the floor. And all I can remember is my muscles just like reacting to it, and then that was it. I woke up a day or two later in hospital. It turned out I got us 14 times. Not all were bad. There was just like nicks. Like there was a lot of nicks, but it was worked out 14 times. He got my neck. He ripped my tricep out there. He got my shoulder deep. He got my leg deep. He got me. He got me arse cheek. He got a couple of places. So
Yeah, that is a crazy story, mate. I mean, okay, so then okay, you're in hospital. So the last thing you remember collapsing and all this. I mean, just keep going with it because I'd like to talk about your recovery and like when you came round and what type of
well,
damage.
I woke up. I didn't realize. I didn't realize where I was, what had happened.
Mm,
I just literally, what the hell's going on? Blah blah blah. I found out then. I'm one of these people who live by the sword, die by the sword. You know, um, I didn't know who it was. Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? And then I got out of hospital, and I wasn't feared. If anything, it made me more. I felt because I'd survived it, and because of that kind of person I was then, give me an even bigger head because I thought, well, I can survive being stabbed. That I'm untouchable, blah blah blah. And then I became a bigger prick. Do you know what I mean? So it was just, I don't know. It was a strange feeling, but I wasn't. I think the fact of having no fear became, I thought I was untouchable basically. But the thing is, I was a respectful prick, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? So it basically made so if there was 5 lads outside the house with baseball bats, I'd have that in my mind. Well, I'm not scared of none of them. Whether there's 5 of them with bats, because I can survive being stabbed 14 times. So it kind of done the wrong thing to us. Do you know what I mean? I got the wrong thing back from it.
yeah. So okay, so if that made you, even like your head even bigger and all this, and made you even worse, kind of thing. I mean, what was the point for you where you started to realize that you want to change and you want to go in a different direction? Because I'm listening to you now and I'm thinking, wow, okay, like you've obviously done some like some inner like reflection and like some changing of yourself in that sense. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're always going to have the old school mindset, you're always going to be a warrior and all, and I respect that. But I mean, there's obviously something here where you've thought, okay, I want to go in a little bit of a different direction because I can tell from just from your vibe and what you're saying. And I'm curious when that happened, when you started thinking, man, you know what, I don't want to be like this in this way, kind of thing.
So throughout my whole fighting career, well, not throughout all of it, throughout most of it, I was one of these fighters who would get a phone call on the Thursday, on the Friday, will you fight on Saturday? Yep, I'm on a plane. So I've flew around the world. I've been, main event in Dubai. I've been Bulgaria. Hong Kong. I fought bare knuckle on the rooftop in Hong Kong, and I done that at a week's notice. So but within this time, because I was fighting 3-4 times a week, you know, and I wasn't bothered who. But after every fight, I'd get on the drink, or I'd be taking drugs. So it was it was it was that done it for me. It was the drink and drugs and fighting, and the lifestyle I lived. That's what made me to the person I was. Now, when I met my wife, Katie, I was with Katie, and I was still that person when I first met her. I was still, you know, in the fighting scene, drinking, taking drugs, and then I I went deaf. I woke up one day deaf. I just woke up deaf one day, and I kind of shocked us. So then, when that happened, I went more onto drink because they said I wasn't allowed to fight. I went more onto drink, more onto the drugs. I was going out Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sometimes I wasn't even coming home. I'd come home, my wife would see me in a right state, and then I nearly lost my wife through it. And when you lose someone that you truly love, you truly love, um, it puts everything in perspective. And I said to my wife, I says, the day we get married, my life will change. I guarantee it. And she said, no, it won't. No, it won't. She wasn't going to give me that opportunity. I said, I promise you, I promise I will change. And since the day I was married, I've never, ever, ever stepped out of line.
Fair play, yeah. Well, love, I mean,
Now, I don't drink. I don't take
yeah,
drugs. I haven't even when I was married, when I first got married, if I ever went out anywhere, I'd go with my wife and we'd have a couple of drinks together. No drugs. It'd be like it was strange, and it was like I can actually live a normal life.
yeah. Okay. Now, the other thing I'd like to touch on here, mate, because I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but it's one other thing, just so it doesn't sort of slip my mind to mention here. When it comes to like, it's one thing quitting the habits and all this type of stuff, but going all the way back to what you were saying at the beginning, a lot of this stuff comes from trauma. I mean, there's always a reason behind everything, with the fighting, and I'd imagine then with the drinking and, needing the buzz and all of this kind of stuff. And obviously with being stabbed as well, things like that. I mean, I know you were saying that it made you more invincible and it made you more, and I get that. But was there ever any, you know, like people have trauma from like flashbacks and things, or you can't like stand somewhere with your back to somebody, or people have all these different types of things. Was there ever anything like that for
Yeah,
you?
from the stabbing. So
Yeah,
going back to the stabbing side, there was I didn't like if I go anywhere. I don't. So if I'm sat here with you, and just see on my wife, and I'm sitting at a restaurant opposite each other, my eyes are everywhere. My eyes are everywhere. But that goes down. That doesn't just go down to that. That goes down to my hearing as well, because I am deaf in both ears.
yeah.
So I've got to wear hearing aids. But so something that noise over there, it sounds like it's coming from over there. But sorry.
What caused it with the deafness though? I mean, you woke up one day, was it fighting, or was it like the drugs, or what?
So it was. I've had quite a lot of hits to the head.
Mm,
So the damage I've took over the years are quite. One of them has been life threatening, and so I've just recently had brain surgery. But I woke up one day, and what happened is my eardrums had retracted, the sunk in, and then I went to hospital. When I woke up, my wife was talking, and it sounded like it just looked like she was lip reading, and I just said, "Stop taking the piss." I thought she was taking the mick out of us, and I couldn't hear anything, and I was like, I need to go to the hospital." And it turns out my eardrums are just retracted in instantly because I got nocturnal epilepsy from fighting as well. So what's happened is I must have had a seizure in my sleep, and then it's been the hard way my eardrums retracted in.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. So you had a life-threatening injury fighting as well.
Yeah.
You mentioned.
So over the years, I have taken quite a lot of blows to the head. You know, I've had this is built. This I had to rebuild under my eye. You know, I've got plates in my jaw. I've got numerous metal around my body. But the worst one was I started to get water coming out of my ears, just this ear, and then it started off dripping, and it started off pouring, and then it started off where every morning where I sat up, the water would just pour out my ear, and I was saying, "What on earth is this?" So I went to the hospital, and it turns out there's a bone apparently at the bottom. I might not get this wrong, but my memory's quite bad as well. So there's a bone at the bottom of the brain, and that snapped and went into a valley like that, like a V, and all the fluid that protects your brain was running out of my ears, and my brain was prolapsing into that V. So when it got to the hole at the bottom, it was hemorrhaging through that hole. So my basement of my brain prolapsed. I didn't know this. I knew about the water. I knew the water was leaking, but I didn't know the severity to it. And I come out of retirement after 5 years, and I went in for a world title fight. Having this, but not knowing how severe it is. And the doctor said when I told them afterwards, the lucky, if I got hit in the fight, it could have killed us because there was nothing actually there to protect my brain. So what they had to do is they had to go in, they had to go up this area and up there, and then they had to lift my brain back up and build a floor. But I'm currently going through a bit of a stage at the moment. I've got an MRI next week where they think that because my memory's getting quite bad and I'm getting very what's the word, like
That's
tired and
very,
worn out through the day
yeah.
sometimes, nearly every day now, where they think it's my frontal lobe might be sagging a bit because there's not enough pressure in my head, so they might have to go in back in again.
Man, that is crazy. I mean, the brain. Okay, so that obviously comes from hits to the head, but I've got to ask you, it's a strange question as well. I mean, but there have been a few, like with the MMA, you've had a few chokes and things as well. Does that make any difference, or is it mostly just from the hits kind of thing?
Well, I can't imagine, being choked out however many times I have been. Um, it's good for the brain, you know what I mean? I think it's going to take its toll at some point, but that's the thing as well. So because I was a striker, I was better with my hands than I was on the ground. Um, nearly every MMA fight I had, a lot of them realized, oh wait, look, why go toe to toe with someone where he's not very good on the ground? So they just took me down. Do you know what I mean? There was, but it is what it is. It's the game I was in. So Luke Dyson, one of my, he's one of my best friends. Luke, I love Luke to death. Me and Luke get along because we're so similar. So he was like me. I used to take a fight. I didn't care who it was. You could put me in there with 5 people, and I still would have had a fight with them. I was that arrogant. I wasn't going to say arrogant, but I was that stupid, you know, where I'd done it to a point where I shouldn't have been in there with them. Do you know what I mean? But I was getting paid, and there was a time in my life where I was homeless and I was living in the back of a car, and I was sofa surfing, so I needed money. So why not? If I love fighting, I love getting hit, I love punching people in the face, and I need the money. So why not just do it? So it wasn't just a choice. It wasn't just, oh, if I fancy a fight sometimes. Sometimes it was all the only option I had.
Makes sense, yeah. When your back's against the wall, yeah. I mean, okay, so with the fighting itself, we touched on this earlier, where you said about Hong Kong and all of these things, and that's why I said at the beginning, like how many of you had, because I've seen you like all over the place. But in terms of like your craziest fight stories, or actually not even your craziest, but like your favorite, like your proudest moments. I mean, you said earlier about the world title fight coming back, and you've taken a lot of risks, and you've been in there with some crazy things more than most people will in a lifetime. So basically, it's a big question with 180 fights. But what are some of your favorite fight memories, basically? And I don't want
So
don't want to put you on the spot because you did say your memories a little bit, but just yeah, anything that stays with you would be
one of
awesome.
the proudest ones was there was I would say there's around there's so many because I've had so many fights. So touching on a couple, one of the main ones was I got off a plane to Dubai. I fought for Tam Khan. The lad I was fighting, he's now in the UFC, and he's called in memory again. He's now in the UFC. He's called the Sniper. He's in the UFC now. I got off the plane and I was greeted so well. I had a chauffeur, took me to a hotel. The hotel was beauty. I had a guy who took my kids to the room. He you know is it a butler? I think there was. I had
Yeah,
a butler. I had my own pool, and my chauffeur came, picked me up to take me to the venue. One of the proudest things, it was a massive, huge building, and my picture was on it because I was the main event there. So, that was a proud moment. Seeing myself in one of the best cities in the world. The other one was flying to Hong Kong. Um, you know, who takes a bare knuckle fight, flies to Hong Kong at a week's notice, sits on a rooftop. It was a gentleman's only evening as well. It was crazy. I met some fantastic humans there as well. I got some lifetime friends from that. Um, Fighting Disco Dave. When I fought Disco Dave, I was an underdog. He was a really high ranked fighter and still is. I've got much love for Dave. I punched him quite hard and hurt him quite bad. That went viral. That one fight hit, quite a lot of views around the world. Then there was Bulgaria. I had a fight there, and that one of them fights that hit, I think it was 12.7 million views. But one of the main things that I one of the, it probably is the most important thing that I've done throughout my fighting. So I lost my brother a few years ago. Now my brother was my best friend, and when he died, it broke my heart, and it changed me back to the old Andy. And when he died, a part of me went with him. But as it took me back to being the old Andy, I didn't want to become that person. So what I done was I thought of a way to stop myself from being a dickhead. So what I done was I said, right, from now on, every fight I have, I will give to charity. So for the last 7, 8 years of my fight career, 7 year, every single fight I had, I'd find an individual person. I'd listen to the story. I'd find out. So touching on one, I'll come back to that. Every single fight for the last part of my career, I give them a charity. I give every single thing I made. I give it to them. Whether it was to send them on holiday, whether it was to pay for things if they needed, whether autistic children needed a certain bedroom, whether they just needed a break, anything. I donated money. I donated my purse, and I sent them away. And I raised a lot of awareness for them as well. So one girl, she had quite a high diabetic. She was quite high medically, and then she needed a medical alert dog. So I'd done a fight in London. It was on Sky. Um, I raised the money. I bought the dog. I paid for the dog to be trained. And then over the years, I raised I give away it was 27 to 28,000 pounds. I give away. 2 of them years I was homeless. Um, and now I own, just because I can't fight doesn't mean I don't want to help. So what I do now is I own Alpha Boxing Fighting Championships. I'm a promoter on that. Me and Hamza, one of my best friends, we run that. Um, on that, I find a family. I listen to the story. I promote a video with Becky, who's fantastic. She does all of our media side. And then we do a lovely um, memorial video for them. We raise money on the night, and then we send them on holiday, or we do whatever we can for the family.
That is amazing. That is absolutely incredible. And I just moved from there because, like I say, there's a little bit of building work going on, and they love building over here in Cyprus. It's the national sport, basically. Anyway, that's another story. Yeah, I mean, giving away and contributing to people in that sense, I've got all the respect in the world for it, mate. I mean, I think that's one of the highest aims we can aspire to,
Yeah,
is helping people who can't help themselves. And this is one of the things. I mean, despite all the things we've been talking about today, I mean, you obviously have a good heart in that sense, and that really shines through. So I absolutely love that. And I'm going to ask you a strange question about that, though, mate. With everything that you've been through, I mean, you've been near death, you've had crazy things happen to you. I mean, do you believe in any spiritual things, any, God, life after death, any type of back the universe, or any type of awarenesses that you've had? Because you've literally been close to death in ways that a lot of people haven't, or you've certainly had experiences that would shake you out of your day-to-day thing, like with the ear and all of this, but you keep coming back, and obviously you're doing good work now. So I'm just wondering if there's a connection there. I mean, if not, but it's just something that I
and
understand.
do you know what? I mean, before my brother died, so it's it's a quick story. So I didn't know any of my family. I grew up in children's homes. I went through an horrific, a story that would make your toes curl. Childhood, um, and it was me coming from that. It was then the bullying, and then it was me against the world. I felt like every single human was against us. So I didn't believe in anything. I believed in pain and I believed in hurt. That's all I believed in growing up. But when I lost my brother, I realized my brother died and it crippled me. It crippled me in ways and shapes and forms that, you know, no one could imagine. Um, and then before I had a chance to meet my my mother, she died. So I never got an opportunity to meet her as an adult. And then my father died. I knew my father 6 months, like properly, um, like as a and then he died. So now to answer your question, do I believe in something? That's all I have left. I only have hope that there's someone there because I don't have anyone else. I only have hope. So I hope that there is someone watching over us. I hope that I do have an angel. I still to this day, I've got my brother's a little urn upstairs of my brother's ashes, what I've got left of his ashes. I've got a little urn of my father's ashes. I hold them and I hold pictures up of hope. Whether I believe it or not, I just think I hope there's someone there because that's all I have left. Because I have no one else. I've got a brother, our Roy, Ross. I don't have family. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
My family, my parents, my closest brother that I had, they've all passed away. So, to answer your question, do I believe in it? Do I have anyone? I hope.
Well, mate, I first of all, I'm sorry for your loss with your brother, with your parents. I mean, there's not a lot anyone can say that really does it justice
Yeah,
with something as close as that. What I will say is, there's definitely experiences I've had in my own life with a higher power and with the spiritual side of like people that we've lost. So I very much believe they are there, but it takes time to, to connect with it. And I was
Yeah.
just curious because you've come close to that so many times. Obviously, what you said earlier as well about the love of your wife and how you changed from when you were married. I mean, that's also a spiritual experience. Even though it's like you're physically married. That connecting with somebody else's heart, that's a spiritual thing. So I mean, that's something that kind of stands out to me from your story. So anyway,
So,
that's
I mean, in my life as well, I mean, I've got to give my kids, I've got 4 children, so I have my oldest daughter Alicia, and then my youngest daughter, my son Jaden, um, my son Saul, and then I've got my stepchildren, our Clayton. I mean, I love our Clayton to death, and I love all my children, our Jaden and Clayton, the brothers. If it wasn't for my family, I would have given up. That is a guarantee. If it wasn't for my family all fighting, I would not be here. I guarantee it. I would have took the easy way out. Fighting saved my life. My family saved my life. Um, but my wife gave me the. She saved my life to make me a better person. When I say my wife saved my wife stopped me from throwing my life away. And my wife, all of them, I cannot give them all enough credit. I'm surrounded by fantastic friends. The lads in the gym. I love them like they're my mum and dad. So my friends are like my mum and dad. The love I give, and I honestly, I hate, I hate arguments. I hate confrontation. I cannot be arsed with it. I cannot be bothered. Too old of a kitten to be fucked by a cat. No, is that the right? Too old of a cat to be fucked by a kitten. That's the one. Sorry for my language. But my family have kept me going so much where it's made me the better person, the better version of me. So
yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love the transformation and how you just give people hope in that sense of how they can change. Because that's something else as well. Whether you realize it or not, you give people hope that they can change, and they can become better versions of themselves. Just
anyone can change, but
yeah,
it's wanting to change. But sometimes you've got to lose. You've got to hit the bottom. If someone is going through a difficult time in life where they're doing similar to how I went through, you must hit the bottom for you. You've got to hit the
yeah.
bottom before you can, and you must want to change. If you don't want it, then it'll never work.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that 100%. But the transformation in here, and it's a lot of the demons that you faced um in here and in here, it's probably tougher than anyone in the ring, and that really stands out to me as
Oh,
well. And I think that's massive courage to be able to do that. Massive, massive courage. So the last couple of things, mate, and we'll wrap up shortly. But the last couple of things, I mean, obviously we've spent a little bit of time looking back, and we spent time talking about like where you come from and everything. But in terms of the future, I mean, you're promoting now, as you said, you're helping people. You'll have to clarify this for me, but I've seen things about where like you're training or you're passing on knowledge in some way. So you're doing like different things. But I'd like to get a feel for like your future goals, basically, because you're continuing to adapt, you're continuing to transform. Sounds a little bit uncertain with what you were saying about that side of things. So I really hope that'll be okay, and I'll definitely keep you in my prayers with that one. But in terms of what we can control, what would you like to do from here, mate?
so from now, I've done it. I'm never allowed to fight again. I'll never be able to fight again ever. That's if I take one more punch to the head, it could be fatal. Um, in fact, it probably will be fatal. So that doesn't take me away from the sport. So I then said, look, I want to coach. I'm going to help people. I've got 2 lads, our Clayton and our Jaden. Them two fight. I train them. I train my friends, and I opened a gym. So I was a head coach at a certain gym. I'm not going to mention names, but they didn't want the boxing anymore. So that gave me the incentive to, right, look, you've done me a favor by stopping this because I'm going to do it myself. So then I opened Alpha Boxing Gym in Ledgate Concert. Now, again, I don't do things for me really at the moment. What I done was I set a gym up to prevent knife crime and to help disabled children. So going to the knife crime side, I set classes up where whoever hands a knife into my gym or an offensive weapon, any young lad, any girl, boy, man, whoever's carrying a knife, I will personally hand that knife in, take it anonymously, hand it in anonymously to the police station. I will then will train these people for a week for free of charge. That there, I've saved two people's lives. I've stopped that young boy or young person or whoever stabbing someone, and I've saved the person that I've saved his life, and I've saved the person who they're going to stab or potentially stab. You know, what's to say the person who's carrying a knife, if he kills someone, he's going to spend a lot of time in prison. All right. What happened? What's to say that person who's carrying a knife, if he's given a chance or an opportunity, he could grow up to be a surgeon, to then save people's lives who are getting stabbed. You know, that's the way I see it. So why not help these young people? Some of these young people are walking around with knives, fear. And that is the top and bottom because they're scared of someone. Are they being bullied where they then think, oh, wait, I need this to protect us? And then one day they lash out. Or is it the bully who's carrying the knife? Do we not need to give him an opportunity to hand that knife in? So everyone is given that opportunity to hand that weapon
I love that. I love that. I
in.
mean, this is the ripple effect. You know what they call ripple effect in the true sense of the word, basically. You know, I mean, I love that. Wow, yeah. Okay, so keep up the good work with that, mate, because changing somebody's life, you know, changing the trajectory and the what's the word for it? Like changing the direction their life is going
Yeah.
in. It's one of the most powerful things ever. I mean, because you're changing that kid's life for the next, like, well, for the rest of his life, literally, so or her life. Okay, and so that's one of the main ones. And obviously, how can people help with that initiative,
So
physically, online, anything
what
that they.
I'm doing is I'm doing I have a disabled son. My youngest boy is disabled. He's on the highest level of autism. He's non-verbal. He has no social awareness. When you walk into a gym, if you walk into any gym around your area, when you are at home, do you ever see a child who's training there, or very rare see a Down syndrome child? No, you don't. Or autistic children, or children with any other disability. You very rarely see them in a gym, part of a team, part of a group, because they are excluded. Because they there's a child at home with autism or with whatever disability watching boxing, watching people train, going, I'll never be able to do that because I'm different. Well, no, you're not different. So what I've done is at my gym, I've opened it free of charge. Any autistic, any disabled child at all, at any level, can come into my gym and train free. I want them to feel like they're part of the team, that they're not excluded. I want them to know if he can do it, I can do it. That's what I want any child to feel. So I've done that. Now, what I've done to do that was to set this gym up for the knife crime, for fighters, for the children who need. I'm not cash rich, far from it. But I had things that I never used. I had certain things that were just sitting in the garage and and just there, just wasting away. So I got rallied all these things up and I sold them all. And I put everything I had into this gym. And I thought, just open it, just try. Because the longer we leave it, the longer I leave it shut, or the longer I don't do this, is another knife on the corner of the street. It's another knife here, or another disabled child feeling that then they kind of do it. So I just opened it So I've opened it without all of the stuff. So yes, I'm a boxing club, but one of the things I don't have is a boxing ring. It's like having a swimming pool with no water in. But what we're trying to do is we're applying for the fund the sorry my memory. We're applying for the funds, but unfortunately it's taken a lot of time, and we have been rejected for a few. Um, but again, all I do is just keep trying. There's people coming in, there's kids coming in. We've had knives handed in, and it's working. But we just need that little bit of help. I'm not going to ask for help. I'll just keep doing it myself. But if help is out there where we are given that opportunity, it will be much appreciated because it helps us get to the point of where we need to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to put a call out here, mate, and say that if anyone can help with that, please do so. And I'm
Yep.
going to say that if anyone can connect with you and reach out to you, which we need to mention in a minute the best ways they can do that. But basically, guys, any forms of support you can have, be them big or small, anything from shares on social media to actual donations, and actually giving time and any private donations or any forms of help, a boxing ring, anything. I mean, please reach out and connect with Andy and what he's doing, because you've heard it here, and what you're doing for the kids as well with disabilities. I love that. It's a very very personal reason why I love that, which I'll share with you afterwards. But absolutely incredible. Okay, so how can people connect with you, mate? Social media and reaching out to you. Anyone wants to get involved? What do
Yeah.
they?
So there's numerous ways. So I own Alpha Boxing Fighting Championships. So that is a boxing show. It's a promotions for we have our own page on Facebook. So you can contact us on there. You can contact me on Instagram, Andy Connor 84. You could contact me at my personal Facebook page. I am Andrew Connor or Andy Connor. Um, it'll come up either with two names. Um, or message me direct. So I do get a lot of friend requests. I'm nearly maxed out. So um, if anyone wants to connect with me, please feel free to message me, and then I can see it, because I do get a lot of people who are scams, or haters, as to say, who just want to put you down. Um, so I don't accept everyone who I'm not one of these people who accepts everyone on Facebook. So if there is anyone out there who wants to reach out, feel free to just drop me a message, and then we can have a chat, and it'd be much appreciated.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. Well, what I'm going to say, mate, it's been an incredible talk today.
Can I just add though, please?
Yeah.
If there's anyone who watches this who I don't want everyone to just message me if it can help. If they need some help, if I can help in any way, shape, or form, just talking to us, having a chat, coming to my gym, or they just want someone to talk to who's totally different, who's had the similar background, who's done the similar things, who wants to change. Don't just contact me if you can help me. Contact me if you want help as well. If I can help in any way, shape, or form, please, I will help. I will do it 100%.
I'm glad you mentioned that, mate. Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that, because you give to so many people, and that's really valuable as well. Um, Awesome. I mean, listen, I knew it would be a good talk today, but it's honestly exceeded the expectations I had. I
Thank
mean
you.
that hand on heart, mate. We've touched on some really valuable things, because, although it's an amazing story and what you've overcome to become the man you are today is incredible. At the same time, there's so many things that you put in here that people can actually take away and use in their own life. They can change their perceptions, they can take things away and put them into practice, and that's the impact as well. So I'm just really grateful for that. I'm really grateful for you sharing so many things from your heart as well. I
Thank
really
you
mean
very
that.
much.
Sharing things like vulnerability, everything from like your upbringing to the stabbing to, the change of your change of heart, your change in life, and the medical stuff. I mean, there's so many things that are not easy to talk about, but they are of value to people. So yeah, I mean, I'm really, really glad that we've done this today, and I definitely believe it will help a lot of people. So I just want to say a really big thank you for that, mate, on so many levels. Yeah.
Thank you to you, you know, for taking the time to do this, and I'd like to personally thank, you know, all the people that's involved in my life. You know, there's a lot of thank yous that I would be here all. We'll have to do this interview again if I went into thank yous, um, you know. But I, I just want to thank everyone, you know, who's surrounded by me. You know, not everyone's my friend, but not everyone matters. There will be, I guarantee, there will be a lot of, you know, people who will want the help, but there'll be people who don't want the help. But my advice is take it when it's given, take it when it's given, because you know there's a lot of people out there who don't get that lifted hand to offer the help. You know, and I did. So thank you to my people, to my friends. You know, who surround me, some great friends. Thank you to my kids as well. You know, and all of yous. You know, my daughters. My daughters are my life. You know, and all my little boy. I just kind of describe um, how important they are to us. And my wife, lastly, she's my queen. She is my queen, and I know she's going through a rough time at the moment with losing her mother last. She lost her mom last night, yesterday morning. So she's got it hard, but you know, Katie, I love you, sweetheart. You'll get through it.
Absolutely, mate. That's a beautiful message and a beautiful way to close out. In all fairness, wonderful family, ultimate blessing in life. So yeah, once again, mate, I'm so grateful for this.
Thank you.
Absolutely incredible. Love the work you do. You're a shining light in this world, mate, in the darkness of this world. So keep doing what you can, and like I say, I hope this helps to raise some more awareness of what you're doing, and we'll go from there. But really appreciate it. So yeah, big love and respect, mate.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's been an honor. Any day, any time I can help with anything, please don't feel please feel free to contact us.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.